So drivers, start your engines!
All right, welcome aboard a modified. Those of you that don't know what these are going to think they look ridiculous. I always get that comment, but for those of you in the know, you know these are some of the coolest, if not the coolest, short track asphalt cars that exist. And I'm here at Stafford Motor Speedway for 80 laps in the modified, the tour modified here at the back of the field, pretty much. I think I'm starting about
just like what we talked about.
38th or so.
One lap, one car at a time.
Got a nice spotter that's going to chat me up. We're in iRacing.
Thanks for sticking it out with us today. I think it's going to be in store for a great race.
Of course, they're going to be very chatty on the radio. We're in iRacing today, but this is offline AI racing. I've been doing this now for about 2 weeks, and I've been having so much fun with it. Feels like the papyrus days of old, but we're going to get started here. I'm going to talk all about the AI and everything as we go and what I think of them and what I've done with them, but hope I don't get involved in anything too early here because this should be fun either way.
Ready, green.
All right, get it up to second gear, fast gear, and away we go.
Outside.
Just keep it nice and tight here in the first couple of laps. Dip below the apron to help turn the car a little bit.
Still out there.
Side by side.
Still outside.
Following Fortin in front, 34. Understeer a little bit, push coming out of the corner.
Still outside.
All right, should be pretty good around the bottom here. Things will get single file after a handful of laps, hopefully. We can make some moves on some of the cars. Max Zackham coming on the high side. Got the AI tuned up real good. Been spending a lot of time playing with all the parameters to try to get them to race as realistically and as fun, mostly as fun as possible. Understeer a little bit there, push wide. There we go. Still a car on the outside. It's Ripkema.
Still out there.
Just watch for any sparks and things in front. Once in a while we'll get a big accident, but otherwise the AI is really good, nice and smooth. Really fun to race. Things will get strung out a little bit, hopefully. There we go. Past the two there. Ooh, we got a car up on the wall. All right. First yellow flag, car pushed wide into the wall there. Not an unrealistic incident, but that one happens a little bit too much. Past the 18 here. So just like real short track racing, we don't have the yellow flag laps counting. They do count them on the Wheel and Modified Tour, which is the most prolific or televised series of these modifieds. But if you're not in the know, there's a lot of different series and tracks that race this style of car. Even the Tour modifieds themselves, but also the SKs, which are a slightly lower horsepower version. And the official NASCAR Tour was the biggest one for a long time, but there's a lot of series that race these, and one of the criticisms of the NASCAR Tour is that they do count caution laps. We've got 80 laps here, no yellow flag laps to count. Should be pretty good, but I'll join you back on the restart.
I'd like to say hello to all the people out there. Thank you for all of your support. Say hello to all the great fans that are here with us tonight. Thank you for bearing through the little bit of weather we had earlier on today. But we're going to be on the outside this time.
All right, lined up side by side. I'm going to start on the outside, which is never good at Stafford. Try to get my way to the bottom as soon as possible.
Radio check, please.
All the way up in 28th already, so past probably 10 cars somehow off that incident. But here we go, back up to second gear for the restart.
Green flag.
Oh, able to jump down low. Wish the spotter would clear me there. They'd be all over you in real life telling you that you're clear low. Stick up behind Higgy here and see if we can follow him up to the front. Should be able to make a good set of moves here on the low side. We're past quite a few cars. It's just like that in real life too. The outside is brutal around Stafford. Once in a while you get a car that can do it, but most of the time it's a bottom lane circuit.
Still outside.
These modifieds are super fun to drive. Now, if you race this car online all the time, I'm sure I'm doing pretty slow laps, but that's not the point, in my opinion, of racing with the AI. It's all about having fun racing when you want it. Probably a lot cleaner racing generally than you have online. Cross my fingers we don't get a lot of cautions in this one. Higgy's gonna let me in on the bottom.
Anticipate that next corner, doing a good job.
Underneath Pastriac there. Which reminds me so much of what I loved about the Papyrus NASCAR games. And this type of racing was something I was always wanting to do in those short track modifieds, and played all the different mods and things over the years to try to emulate this, all the different car sets and paint schemes and everything. And obviously how this drives and how the cars look and everything are spot on for how these cars look in real life. Gone ahead and assembled myself here a custom skin pack, and it's mostly the wheel and modified cars, but I've done a few from some of the other series. Most of them are downloaded from online, and I've made some alterations and things here or there, but just really enjoying myself exploring all the different options and things that you get with iRacing's AI. Understeer a little bit there, push in the middle of the corner. I've been racing on the road circuits too much. I've been calling it push or understeer instead of push. All right, things are working themselves out a little bit here. We got Catalano on the outside, slip underneath him. So this is the type of racing that I grew up going to watch. I still go to quite frequently, and you probably never guess it from all the videos and things I do, because I love all types of racing, and always kind of nervous to do a video about this type of racing, because I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, and also if you don't go to these types of races and see these cars, you don't have that connection to it, then it probably just looks like we're going in circles, which is fine. But if you can make it to a short track, asphalt modified race, or any kind of race, but one of these, I highly, highly recommend it. It's so much fun. And there's so much to watch out there. I love having a huge field of cars like this. I'm kind of emulating a race I went to just last weekend at Stafford. The Open Modified 80, the fall final. And they had 33 cars at that, not 40, but we're going to have a little bit of fun here and have a full field. 33 cars around Stafford's a lot, so 40 is almost too many. It's definitely too many for the pits.
Keep flipping that thing.
But we can do that in a sim. I think somebody at iRacing has got a little bit of a crush or an affinity towards these types of cars, because there's so many circuits and things that are available to race on for these. You can do the better half of the Wheel and Modified Tour calendar, or at least a lot of the tracks which are usually on it. This track isn't actually on the official NASCAR calendar anymore, but I think that's for the best, probably. We're following Higgy here. Everything's kind of straightened out. So I've got the AI on very difficult settings, but I always like racing in the middle of the pack. I don't really like when it's easy to win or if it's hard to keep up. You kind of want to be right in the middle, and I think iRacing is doing a good job with how they built the AI to allow you to do that. Because not only can you go and rate individual drivers, and I want to get into talking about how that works a little bit, you can very easily adjust the field spread and determine what the slowest driver's speeds are going to be and the highest driver's speeds. So from track to track, if I want to spread them out a little bit more or pack them up a little bit more, it's as simple as dragging a slider. And at least for these types of cars, because I've not explored much beyond these and the Indy cars, at least for these types of cars, though, it works really well. I want to go to Loudon, New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and have them spread out a lot more than this so that it's really, really spread out. I can just drag the slider down, make the slowest cars a lot slower. Or if I want to bunch them all up and have some kind of super speedway style racing, you can easily do that. That kind of stuff used to be so hard to do in the Papyrus games. All right, here we go. Run on Higgy. I'll jump below. You'll see the guys in real life jump all the way down in the apron. We're going to understeer here. There we go. Bit hot into turn one, try to pick up the throttle. Kopsic gonna come down low in the 179. To run off the corner. Woody Pitcat in front now on the outside of Michael Christopher Jr. It's Ted Christopher's nephew. Dip it on the low side there. So they make it really easy to adjust. Now, it's not perfect. I'm going to give tons of thumbs up throughout this whole video about how much I love the AI, but there's some issues with it. For sure, it's not perfect. There's some tracks that are better than others. I found Stafford here to be one of the better ones for these types of cars. I think it's one of the most recently done or released for AI. Ronnie Williams on the outside there, so we can get underneath him before he cuts low. There we go. Tip up the inside.
Door outside.
Oh, side by side there.
Still there. Still outside.
Back on the throttle. The throttle helps turn the car quite a bit with this setup. I mentioned a few minutes ago, you're definitely able to get better setups for these cars. I'm running nearly the stock setup. I've made a couple adjustments just to make it feel better, but that's what's fun about offline racing. You don't need to necessarily be the fastest driver of all time. You can kind of be competitive in your own bubble, handicap yourself, or give yourself a bad setup that makes the AI a little bit harder. Do whatever you want. It's your race. You can start it when you want. You don't have to worry about ruining somebody else's race. You can get 40 cars going of reasonable competence. It's Christopher there, very slow in the Tommy Baldwin car. 7NY, very famous modified.
Still out there.
So if you don't know modified racing, but you do know top-level NASCAR, so we got Gary McDonald in front. He's quite slow.
One outside.
He's pinning me down to the bottom, though. Keep it all the way on the apron. Risky 3 wide there. Actually getting past the lap cars all right. It's going to be one of my gripes. I'll still say it's not perfect. The AI do get stuck up behind slower traffic, but I'm playing a lot with some of the different settings to try to make them a little bit better at passing, especially the slower cars. But it's been a balance. So Stafford, one of the better tracks. Thompson, unfortunately, doesn't work super well. There's a lot of crashes I've found racing there. We've got a slow car on the bottom coming up.
Slow on the bottom, slow on the bottom.
They're going to make it to the pit lane. Oh, it's Christopher, so maybe end up tapping the wall. I found here at Stafford they stop for some reason in turn 3, and luckily it usually doesn't bring out the yellow flag. They end up disappearing after a couple minutes. But little quirks like that here and there. I think Stafford's got some issues because the pit lane is so small. You can see him here stop in turn 3. He'll disappear here in a minute. Thompson, they hit the outside wall a bit. New Hampshire, they run the craziest lines. So there's a lot of work to be done. But when it works really well. It's so much better than I think every other Sims Oval AI. Definitely rivaling, in my opinion, especially in this scenario right here, beating NASCAR 2003, which has long been the AI mecca for oval racing.
Outside.
We'll slip underneath Woody Petcat here. Got JB Fortin right in front of him.
Still outside.
Tire just on the inside, laying there. There we go. So we can get Fortin here down into turn 1. Another minor gripe. So we'll work underneath him. There we go. Minor gripes around how the AI changed throughout a race with tire wear and the track changes and all this. It's a little unpredictable. Some tracks, they get a lot faster as the race goes on. Other tracks, like we're seeing here, they slow down a little bit more than you do. I think it makes it kind of fun to work your way to the front, but we're already up to 15th. I feel like I'm catching all of the cars in front, so we'll see if any come back on me at any point. We do got Ronnie Williams right behind. But overall, my experience has been as tires wear, you tend to catch the cars in front a bit easier. Walter Sutcliffe here in front, one of the slower cars as well. But you can give drivers a personality, so they make it pretty easy to adjust different drivers in the UI. I've also found you can kind of dig through the files, and it's just a JSON file. It's a type of text file where all the parameters live, and pretty easy to make spreadsheets and things that help generate that. So it's very easy to tweak parameters and make the AI drive differently. But they've done something which I think is helpful for a lot of folks, but it ultimately just obscures everything. Is what's up underneath. Undoubtedly a lapped car there. They've given names to all the parameters just past halfway. This one's going to go by. I wouldn't be surprised if we run green for the rest of it. We'll chase down. I think I got Ryan Preece in front of me, the NASCAR Cup driver, but he is a modified driver first and foremost. It's Ronnie Williams behind in the 50s sticking with me. So they've given names to the different parameters to help you try to understand, I guess, what they do. So you have things like age of the driver, their aggression, of course, their overall strength. You've got things, I think, optimism, smoothness. So a few of these different parameters, and you kind of have to uncover what they actually do, because they do have tooltips next to them that tell you what the different parameters do. It's really pulling in this group now. Preece is in the 40 car here. But I've done a bunch of testing, all the different parameters, and I've found that the age parameter is actually one that matters quite a bit. So you do have the overall strength, and that certainly controls how fast each car is relative to each other. And they've done it nice where they're really just different in the corners, not so much on the straightaways, which is pretty realistic. You'll have some cars that are a bit faster on the straight lines, but it's all in the turning where you usually make up a lot of time. So they're believable in that respect. But beyond the general just strength setting, you do have aggression, which seems to work like it does in a lot of sims, where obviously it controls how willing they are to make passes and things, but if you put it too low, they actually try to avoid each other and can end up causing more accidents with the aggression too low. So I have aggression quite high. I think it's 70-80% for all the cars here. So Ronnie Williams going to get a wheel underneath me. I'm going to make contact, spin myself out. Push a lot coming out of the corner. Try to wrap around the high side, see if I can keep the position though.
Still inside.
Wheel to wheel. Gosh, feathered the throttle there a little bit on the exit. Tough to judge how wide the car is to the right. It's taking a bit of time to get used to that. Williams able to make the pass though. Hit cat now. Saw the inside for a second, but able to close the door on him here. We need to focus on passing some cars a bit. So you got the aggression and strength sliders and all that. Optimism, smoothness, and age. Age has been the one that's been surprising to me the most. It's been held up here, but probably want to stick on the bottom side. Very slow, stuck up behind Gary McDonald. So here's a little bit of that slow lap traffic thing. So Pit Cat's gonna make a jump on the inside. Preece getting below McDonald now. We've got Eric Beers in front, or Austin Beers, I think it's his son, in the 64. Haas's car. There we go, I'll sneak underneath him. It's not that unrealistic. Sometimes you do get the lap traffic getting in the way, but often they'll just ride around on the apron after they get lapped for the first time. So the age parameter is the one that surprised me the most, and it makes a pretty big difference in how they drive. How iRacing describes it is that there's a prime age for drivers, and if they're a little bit younger, they're maybe more prone to mistakes for not being that experienced, and if they're older, they'll have slower reactions and probably make some mistakes that way. So if you run into cars maybe making too many mistakes or not enough mistakes, I found the age slider a great way to adjust that. And I've actually ended up with almost all the drivers being in prime age, around 30 years old. 25 to 30 seems to be the best if you want drivers to be consistent. I don't like a lot of accidents in my offline racing, as you can probably tell by how this is going so far. I like these really long oval races, a lot of push now. Really long oval races where you just get kind of strung out and doing laps. You don't exactly know who's in front of you or behind you. I like turning off most of the HUD. I did turn on a little HUD for you, see the laps and everything, but it's fun to get kind of lost in the race. So yeah, when there's a lot of accidents and things, it kind of takes me out of it, especially if they're unrealistically so. And so age slider is a good one. Then optimism and smoothness, these are the two that I've found to be the most confusing in what they do. They seem to have two different things that they're controlling on the cars. The smoothness is controlling whether or not the driver is more prone to understeer or oversteer. So logically, you'd think in the middle is maybe where they're driving perfectly, but I found it to be pretty unpredictable in all directions. I've ended up setting it, I believe, pretty low so that they're not understeering or oversteering, but it's still, some tracks seem to react better with it set higher so that everybody understeers or not. And then optimism, which is a really funny name for a setting, but optimism is controlling how, or the iRacing says it's controlling how optimistic or confident a driver is in the moves they make. So this is the most confusing one, because you'd think a high optimism, then they're very confident, but apparently they can be overconfident, and it's not clear exactly what level that happens at. So I think I've also set that very low. So in this race, everybody's very tentative about the moves they're making, but it seems to treat the cars the best. We get some good racing out of this. Reese is going to run a little high here, dip underneath him. I'll slide up a little bit. There we go. Come out of the corner, just clear him there. Clear myself. You don't really need the spotter sometimes.
Outside.
It's just a spotter pack. It's the JJ spotter pack, Jimmy Johnson spotter pack, which I think fits well. Oh, a little bit of a tap there. Ronnie Williams. I have found that the AI pit at the very site of damage, which in real life, if your car felt all right, you would stay out as long as possible. Pitting, if it's not under yellow, is a death wish in this type of racing. Just absolutely lose the entire race if you jump in the pits at any point when you're not supposed to. So I found if slight contact with another car, the AI will pit and retire themselves, but no car is ever actually retired. It behaves a lot like the online racing does, where you can get repairs kind of infinitely. So you're doing a 200 lap race right on the back of Sapienza here. Dip it right onto the apron. Make a lot of contact in these cars, something I never would do online, but offline here can rattle somebody's cage just a little bit. Right, nice run coming out of turn 2. It's not going to be quite enough yet. Try to open up the entry to the corner. Oh, I got a nice run off the turn. Here we go, down low.
Outside.
Right into the sun. Very realistic. The sun's blinding late in the day.
Clear.
Stafford, oddly, in iRacing doesn't have lights. I think this was one of the first tracks, and it might be the oldest track in iRacing now that hasn't been redone, because Lime Rock Park was early on, Laguna Seca was very early on, Summit Point maybe might be the other one that hasn't been done in a long time, but yeah, this was one of the first ovals that iRacing had, and it hasn't been touched, so there's no lights, unfortunately. Most of the racing here is done at night, so it'd be great if they put lights in at some point. Alright, up to P12. Haven't been quite as concentrated on the race, but it's been so much fun to explore what iRacing's done, because I have tried it out and given it a look with auto-downloaded things. You can go on Trading Paints and download what they call collections, which are basically car sets for different vehicles, and have a really good time, but it's been nice to really sink my teeth in with this type of racing I really like. There's a lot of good collections out there, but I wanted to really put something together for myself that had all the different drivers and cars I know and had them race pretty good. So we got a big stack up in front here. I think a couple slower cars. So learning what all the different parameters and what you can get out of it has been a lot of fun. You can do whole seasons and things offline in this. A lot of folks enjoy doing the different cars. I know some people use it for practice, or you can run hosted sessions where you have some AI and some real drivers, which I know is good. But just having nice offline races like this really takes me back, because this is what I did for years and years. The big run on these cars in front. Don't really want to take it 3 wide if I don't have to. It's like Sutcliffe holding up this whole line. Be good for them to get some maybe blue flag logic. I know the lines are there for the cars to limp around on the bottom side. Go 3 wide up front.
Clear high, outside core, clear, outside.
Oh, try not to rear end Sammy Ramo there. Alright, low side, get up behind Higi again. Might be doing a lap on him now.
Still out there. All clear,
Ramo a little bit of a bump.
still there.
Right. Making some passes here as everybody, there we go, it gets all stacked up. Good Gary McDonald again.
You're going the right direction.
Could probably speed up the slow cars just a little bit to make this less of an issue, but everybody does sort it out eventually. At least they don't get stuck behind for the whole race or anything like that. But this is just so much better than every other offline oval racing out there. I mean, it's really, nothing has been as good as this since NASCAR 2003, and at this type of racing, NASCAR 2003 was not quite this good. Especially in the feel, obviously, there was really only one set of physics for NASCAR 2003, so we actually have proper modified physics. We're getting down to 5 to go here. So trying to make a couple more passes, just snuck into the top 10. Up behind Andy Seiss, he's a car chief for AJ Allmendinger in the NASCAR Cup Series, but loves to race his modified when he can. Tip underneath Seiss.
Clear high.
You get kind of loose on the corner entry where you float it in. You don't want to slide the car too much, especially in a long race. Call it 80 laps, not super long, especially if it runs green to checker. But if you wear out the tires a lot, or you can wear them out a lot by sliding into the corners, I think both of them were lapped cars. So we'll come and do the final couple of laps here, probably without any traffic. We'll understeer a lot there. Just as the sun begins to set and the lights don't turn on at Stafford here.
Jump to the white.
But really excited to see where this goes with iRacing. I hope they continue to invest in this. I don't see a lot of people using it. There's a good little group on the forums that use it, but it's not a super active community. So I do hope some folks use this and they continue to add it to cars and tracks and continue to refine it, because they'll cross the line there. Finishing 10th, top 10 from 38th on the grid's not too bad, but as they continue to develop new things, if folks don't use the AI racing, I don't know if they'll continue to work on it, but I really hope they do, because it's really awesome in its current iteration for stuff like this, for folks that like short track racing, or maybe you've made it this far and this is totally new to you. Well, welcome. Kind of hope you found it interesting and enjoyable, but I'll probably be doing a lot more of this myself. Let me know if you'd want to see some more at some of the different tracks and things. But yeah, having so much fun, wanted to share it with everybody. Thank you for watching. This is GP Laps, and I'll see y'all again next time.